Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission is pretty simple. We slice through the noise, take that stack of sources you give us, and really just distill it down to what you need to know.
And today we are really diving into the just the dizzying pace of change that's defining late 2025. The material you shared, it presents this massive tension.
Right.
On one hand, you have this explosive, almost overwhelming acceleration of AI and tech. And on the other, you see the surprising and sometimes, frankly, bizarre ways that we and even nature are trying to keep up.
Yeah, we have an incredible array of sources here. I mean, everything from urgent international policy, geopolitical stock market debuts, all the way to brain science and these surreal cultural snapshots.
And our goal is to connect these seemingly disparate dots from, a $100 billion mission in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to the quiet tragedy of a cold-stunned shark in Massachusetts. It's about understanding the speed of change and maybe the costs that come with it.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start where the biggest resources are going, this global race for AI supremacy. It's not just an economic race anymore, is it?
No, not at all. It really has taken on the urgency of like a 20th century arms race.
And that comparison, that's not just us talking.
No, that's policy now. Your sources detail President Trump's executive order, the Genesis mission, and it explicitly compares its urgency and ambition to the Manhattan Project.
And the commitment really backs that comparison up. It's pulling America's national labs, the places that develop nuclear weapons, and pivoting their entire focus to AI research.
It's a total resource realignment, from atomic power to algorithmic power.
The symbolic heart of it is Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Exactly. The secretive city built for uranium enrichment in WWII. Now it's reborn as America's AI hub, housing the frontier supercomputer. I mean, That shift signals a core national belief. AI is the next foundation of global power.
And the budget reflects that scale. $100 billion annually.
It's an enormous investment, and it absolutely sets the stage for how the rest of the world has to respond.
And across the Pacific, China is clearly answering that call. We saw this just astonishing stock market debut of more threads.
Right, China's NVIDIA, as it's often called. On Shanghai's star market, December 5th, it was spectacular.
Astonishing is the right word. The stock surged over 400% in a single day.
Right.
It closed at 5 times its IPO price. So what's the real story behind a valuation like that?
The real story is geopolitical imperative. More Threads was founded by a former NVIDIA exec, Zhang Jianzong, and it really represents Beijing's intense push for a total semiconductor self-reliance.
So the market fundamentals don't really matter here.
Not in the traditional sense. The market just ignored them. I mean, the company has cumulative losses of 4.6 billion RMB.
Wow.
And yet, early investors saw returns over 6,262 times their initial stake. The valuation isn't about profit right now. It's a huge bet on future dominance and national security. It's seen as a strategic necessity.
And that desire for strategic dominance is just as clear in adjacent tech, like voice AI. I mean, look at the staggering acceleration of a company like 11 Labs.
Oh, they're moving at warp speed. They raised over $300 million in total funding, and they hit a $6.6 billion valuation back in September.
And that valuation, it doubled in just 9 months.
In 9 months. And their reach is already huge. They have an annual recurring revenue of over $200 million. They're aiming for $300 million by year's end. Over 60% of Fortune 500 companies use their tech. This isn't niche anymore.
No, it's becoming the ubiquitous, invisible voice of the modern enterprise.
And while the AI models are getting faster, physical tech is also showing off this impossible complexity. The sources pointed to Samsung's new Galaxy Z trifold.
Yes, the multi-folding phone. It opens up twice to reveal this immersive 10-inch display. And at its narrowest, it's 3.9 millimeters thin. It has standalone Samsung DeX functionality.
So for what, $2,500?
About that, yeah. For $2,450, you basically have a complete desktop computer in your pocket that folds down to the size of a wallet.
So you have nations pivoting their most powerful resources, markets ignoring billions in losses to fund strategic tech, physical devices achieving impossible thinness, everything, everywhere is just accelerating.
But that breakneck speed, it comes with a profound cost. And it's creating both, a scalable financial threat and a very human cognitive toll. Let's start with that financial threat, AI as an automated criminal.
This research from Anthropic is maybe the most immediate scalable threat we see in the material. They tested advanced AI agents on 34 blockchain smart contracts.
And these were new contracts.
Brand new. Deployed after the AI's training cutoff in March 2025.
So the AI couldn't have just looked up known vulnerabilities.
Oh,
It
no.
had to. It had to invent the hacks.
Precisely. And the results were, frankly, terrifying. The AI successfully exploited 19 of those contracts. It generated $4.6 million in simulated theft. It found zero-day vulnerabilities all on its own.
But the most alarming part is the economics of it.
That's the key. For you listening, this isn't high-effort, targeted crime anymore. The AI could scan almost 3,000 new contracts for a total cost of about $3,500.
That breaks down to what, per attempt?
An average cost of $1.22 per exploit attempt. Think about that. The cost of attempting a sophisticated hack has dropped below the price of a coffee. Automated crime is now a scalable commodity.
So human defenders are just completely outmatched by the sheer scale.
Instantly. And Anthropic is warning that AI may be behind half of all crypto hacks in 2025.
Okay, so if that's what happens when we outsource digital security, what happens when we start outsourcing just our basic thinking? And that brings us to this MIT Media Lab study.
And this new concept they've introduced, cognitive debt.
It's a terrifying idea.
It is. This study is critical. They ran brain scans on 54 participants writing essays, some with AI help, some without, and the dependency shift was immediate and profound.
The statistic that just stopped me in my tracks was the retention failure. 83.3% of the ChatGPT users couldn't quote from their own essays just minutes later.
Because the neural effort just wasn't put in, and the brain scans show why. There was significant underengagement in the alpha and beta neural networks, the parts of the brain you need for focus, for critical analysis, for problem solving.
But it's the debt part that's so dangerous. Can you tell us more about why they call it that?
The researchers found that the impaired brain activity and the weaker neural connectivity, it persisted, even after they stopped using ChatGPT for that task.
So you're not just outsourcing the task.
No, you're effectively allowing the neural muscles for deep processing to atrophy. And that weakness lingers. It's a debt your brain has to pay back later.
So AI gives you speed, but it costs you the very cognitive effort that forms memory. It's no wonder educators describe the essays as, robotic and soulless. You get the output, but you lose the internal process.
And that drive to eliminate cognitive steps is even moving into physical tech. Xpeng's 2025 AI Day introduced their physical AI.
This is the VLA 2.0 model. For you listening, this is a 72 billion parameter vision language action model. How does eliminating those language steps change autonomous driving?
Well, in short, it removes the middleman. Older systems would see a stop sign, translate that into a language instruction like the sign says SOP, process that, then convert it back into an action. VLA 2.0 sees the sign and immediately performs the action. It operates in the physical world without that clumsy, slow, internal monologue.
So it's a car that reacts instantly, not one that thinks about reacting. And Volkswagen jumped on this immediately.
Well, they became the first automaker to adopt the technology. That's how fast these models are moving from a lab concept to industrial reality.
So as this technological complexity just explodes, we're seeing these strange feedback loops all over the globe. They're highlighting both new vulnerabilities and, well, really unexpected adaptations.
Like how nature is responding. This next finding is genuinely poetic. Near Toretsk in Ukraine, the Azov Brigade found something fascinating.
A bird's nest.
A bird's nest constructed almost entirely from fiber optic cables.
So not twigs and straw. We're talking about the non-biodegradable high-tech cables from all the FPV drones used in the war.
Exactly. The brigade called it nature's adaptation to war. The birds are repurposing our digital detritus, knitting together the refuse of high-tech conflict for a biological purpose. It's a remarkable image.
It's an interesting contrast to the cognitive debt we were just talking about. Nature is efficiently recycling our digital trash, while we humans seem to be struggling to process the intellectual complexity technology creates.
And sometimes human vulnerability has nothing to do with digital complexity at all. The source material gave us the astonishing financial tragedy of the Hermes heir Nicholas Puch.
Right, this is a story of analog negligence in a hyper-digital world. Puch, 81 years old, reportedly lost his entire $15 billion fortune.
And the cause wasn't some sophisticated hack. For nearly 20 years, he maintained this blind trust with his wealth manager, Eric Raimond. He just habitually signed blank documents.
Completely hands-off. For 2 decades.
A $15 billion oversight from a simple, fundamental failure of vigilance. And the wake-up call was so mundane, his staff hadn't thanked him for a $1 million gift he thought he'd given them.
Only to find out the money was gone. His assets were sold off.
The lesson is that even the greatest wealth can't protect you from basic, negligent trust. That's a vulnerability AI can't solve for you.
And that need for vigilance extends to everyday things, like travel. We saw a lot of volatility in global movement because of things like that sudden Chinese travel warning in mid-November.
Right, that warning caused an immediate 30% redirection of Chinese trips away from Japan.
And almost overnight, South Korea became the top destination.
And Thailand saw a huge boost, becoming the #1 destination for winter bookings. Airlines and travel operators are just scrambling to keep up with how fast sentiment can shift global economic flows.
But no matter where you're going, the TSA issued some serious cybersecurity warnings for all travelers. They warned against public USB charging stations because of juice jacking.
Juice jacking is a threat where hackers install malicious software into public USB ports. You plug in and that software can infect your device, steal your data.
The advice is simple. Just use your own battery pack or wall adapter.
They also cautioned against unsecured public Wi-Fi, specifically evil twin networks. These are fake networks that mimic legitimate airport or coffee shop Wi-Fi names.
So they can capture your credentials when you try to log in.
Exactly. Digital vigilance is your first line of defense.
And finally, as a marker of the environmental complexity we're facing, December brought the cold moon on the 4th.
The final supermoon of 2025. It appeared 14% larger, 30% brighter. A real moment of natural grandeur.
But you contrast that serenity with the tragic animal stranding in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. A 14-foot thresher shark died after becoming cold-stunned in shallow water.
It's just a stark reminder that all complex systems, financial, digital, ecological, are susceptible to critical disruption when the environment shifts even slightly, or when one individual takes a single wrong turn.
To complete this deep dive into late 2025, let's just quickly hit the cultural scoreboard. You got the Spotify Wrapped results, and it sounds like they successfully redeemed themselves after that heavily criticized AI version last year.
It did. The results highlighted just massive global streaming. Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars's Die With a Smile was the top global song, over 1.7 billion streams.
That kind of reach is just staggering, and Bad Bunny cemented his dominance.
#1 global artist for the 4th time. The scale is immense. It just shows how integrated these platforms are in global culture.
And speaking of cementing a legacy, the Jonas Brothers had their hand and footprint ceremony on December 3rd.
That moment really symbolizes a successful career evolution. From late 2000s tween idols on the Disney Channel to mainstream pop success with #1 hits like Sucker, successful adaptation isn't just a tech concept, it's cultural too.
In sports, we saw these rapid, unexpected turnarounds. The New England Patriots season is one of the most remarkable transformations in the NFL.
I mean, after back-to-back 4-13 seasons, they flipped the script completely. They're sitting at 11-2 with a 10-game winning streak. They're the first team since 1999 to pull that off after losing 13 or more games the year before.
And quarterback Drake May is the clear MVP favorite.
Driving that whole worst-to-first story.
But for every shocking turnaround, there's an abrupt end. We saw that with the NBA legend Chris Paul, the point god.
Yeah, Paul. A 12-time All-Star, second on the all-time assists list, was suddenly and unceremoniously cut by the LA Clippers on December 3rd. It ended his retirement season just 4 months in. A very stark exit for a player with that kind of legacy.
And finally, snooker offered a fascinating snapshot of changing global influence. Chinese players had a record-breaking presence at the UK Championship.
A huge surge in visibility and skill. 12 players reached the last 32, matching the UK's total. It reflects China's growing soft power in professional sports.
But what was the final outcome?
Despite that massive presence, all the Chinese players were eliminated by the semifinals. It shows that while global influence is expanding quickly, that final threshold of championship dominance is still incredibly steep.
So those deep dive, it really gives you a clear picture of late 2025. A world defined by this exhilarating exponential speed in AI valuation, in automated hacking, in tech all, contrasted sharply with fundamental human vulnerabilities and, well, an alarming cognitive strain.
Right, and when we look at this acceleration, we have to ask ourselves how we process this flood of information without incurring that cognitive debt. To put it in context, let's go back to December 6th, 1877.
Okay.
That's the date Thomas Edison invented the phonograph. He successfully recorded Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Edison's invention, that was the foundational step. It totally transformed how humans preserved and shared audio. It was the first reliable way to capture output and memory outside of the human brain.
So if Edison's phonograph was the first step in preserving sound, What does that MIT study about cognitive debt imply about this current way of AI? We're now preserving highly polished, high-level output, perfect essays, instant translations, but we're doing it at the potential cost of losing the internal cognitive effort that is essential for real human understanding and memory.
So the provocative thought for you to carry forward is this. As technology accelerates its capacity to provide instant answers and flawless output, what internal cognitive capacity must you actively protect? Is the ultimate cost of AI not financial or even technical, but the erosion of your own capacity to think deeply,